What's up guys, and welcome back to Sliced. Now I know I'm looking a little bit rough today, I'm not gonna lie, and it's kind of why I missed my last week's video as well. I was feeling a bit sick, but we are back with another video, and to make up for the sickness today we are making something truly special. We are making Kunafah, one of the best desserts around, and it's also a very disputed dessert. I mean, many countries claim it. So without a doubt, when I post this recipe, I'm sure there'll be some differences in opinions on how it should be made. But having said that, after a bit of research, I found an amazing recipe. But having said this, after a lot of research, I found this amazing recipe from a chef called Rawia Bishara. She's based in New York, and she's got this amazing restaurant where she makes the most amazing Kunafah, and I think that her recipe is probably one of the easiest to replicate. So with that being said, we're going to be making her recipe. I'll leave a link to her videos and books and whatnot in the description below. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it.
So with this particular recipe, I want to go through the ingredients one by one. This is kind of because they're quite specific and they need to be explained. So starting with the essential ingredients, we're going to start with the pastry. This has different names. It's called phyllo, it's called angel hair, it's called random different things. So the best thing I can tell you is to sort of ask around, ask anyone that's made this before. Look in Turkish shops, look in Arab shops. You'll find it eventually. It might even be in the freezer section, it could be in the fridge, and it's sort of identified by this kind of wispy, dry, straw-like shape, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's what you're looking for. The next important ingredient is butter ghee. We're going to be needing a few tablespoons of this as the recipe goes on, so do get your hands on this. If you can't really find any or you don't have any nearby, I guess melted butter would do, but butter ghee is a lot better because it won't burn as quickly. And then our next important ingredient is cheese. Now the ratio of the cheese and the type of the cheese is very important. Traditionally they use cheese curds. So in this case I'm going to be using a mixture of mozzarella and some ricotta. I've used 1 bowl of mozzarella to 3 tablespoons of ricotta in this recipe. Personally I think it was a bit too much, so cut that down to 1 tablespoon of ricotta. It will be a lot better in terms of the consistency. Now our our fourth ingredient, which is incredibly important, is our sugar syrup. I'm using 3 tablespoons of sugar to 3 tablespoons of water in a small pot or anything that you can find lying around, and we're just going to sort of heat this up and cook it down into a syrup. You can add more sugar or less sugar if you would like. Now onto our optional ingredients, and the first is 50 grams of shelled pistachios. We're going to use this to garnish the Kunafah with at the end, and so you can set that to one side. Our second optional ingredient is orange food coloring. Now this is going to really help with the aesthetic of the Kunafah. It's going to give it a really nice sort of golden orange crust. The powder is the easiest form to work with. Of course you can use gel, you can use liquid, but yes, it's very cheap and easy to find. But if you can't find it, it's not the end of the world. Anyway, with our final optional ingredient, I'm using orange blossom water. This is really to help the flavor of the sugar syrup. You can use cardamom, you can use rose water, you can use saffron, use whatever you want really. The orange blossom is just my preference for flavor, but you can go ahead and infuse your sugar water with whatever you'd like. But if you're using orange blossom, use only a few drops as it's quite strong. So moving on to the actual recipe, we're going to start straight away by putting some boiling water, enough to cover our pistachios with, and we're just going to leave it over to one side until it cools down completely. Now with the actual Kunafah itself, I can't really give you a measurement for how much pastry you need. You kind of need to do it by eye. I'm using about 2/3 of the pastry that I bought because I'm covering a 20 centimeter cake tin, but you can go ahead and eyeball it, use however much you want. It's sort of quite a forgiving recipe, so it doesn't really matter. Then I'm going to use a knife to cut the pastry into about 1 centimeter pieces. It doesn't really need to be measured, you just chop it up into rough pieces, and then use your hand to sort of break the rest of it apart, just to make sure that there aren't any pieces that are attached in large clumps. And once you've done this, we're going to add it to a bowl along with 3 heaped tablespoons of ghee. You can use less if you'd like, but can't really hurt your chances. And then we're just going to mix it together as if you are making breadcrumbs, and massage the ghee into the strands so that everything is nice and evenly coated. And then we're going to put that to one side and work on our cheese. As you can see, I'm just breaking apart the mozzarella with my hand, and then we're going to mix it up into a nice big lump. And as you can see, I should just use a bowl. I don't know what's wrong with me, but here we go. So once you've done that, you can go ahead and take your cake tin, or even a frying pan if you'd like, and add a teaspoon of ghee and half a teaspoon of your optional orange food coloring. and you can just go ahead and use your hand or a tissue, whatever you'd like, just to sort of massage that around so that it's nice and evenly coated. And once you've done that, you can go ahead and set it to the side. So next you're going to go ahead and press down your Kunafah pastry that you've buttered, and just press it down as if you are filling a pie casing, making sure you pack down the bottom as well as the sides, leaving a nice gap in the middle for our cheese to go into. And once you've done that, reserving about 1/3 of your pastry, you're going to cover the inside with the cheese mix, making sure you get all the corners nice and evenly. And once you've done that, go ahead and pack the top with the remainder of the Kunafah pastry. And that's pretty much it. So we're going to stick this in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes at 180 degrees. To be honest, it's quite a forgiving recipe. You can even cook this in a frying pan on your stovetop like a pancake. Just keep an eye on it, look at the edges of the pastry, making sure they're not burning, and you can take as long or as short as you would like. And then we can go ahead and move on to our next job, one of the most therapeutic jobs in a kitchen. You know, you get those jobs, you know, sort of making pasta, making dumplings, you know, these sort of monotonous, chilled out jobs. Well, this is one of those. Peeling pistachios is so simple. You're just going to take your pistachio out of the water and slip the skin off it.
And they should just slide right out of there. So yeah, while your kunafah is cooking in the oven, you can just go ahead and remove all of these from their skins. It shouldn't take too long.
So yeah, not too long later, you've got your perfectly green pistachios, and you're just going to roughly chop them on a board. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can go ahead and use a pestle and mortar or a food processor if you would like, but you know, it doesn't really matter. And then we're going to go ahead and make our syrup. You can go ahead and add whatever flavorings that you'd like to it. Like I said, use cardamom, use rose water, use saffron, use whatever flavor makes you happy. And then you're just going to stick it on a medium heat until it's nicely hot and dissolved. That doesn't even make sense. Nicely dissolved, and then we're going to keep it to one side and ready to go. So now that our kunafah is out the oven, we're going to test to see if it's right by shaking it. You can't really see it on camera, but it's going to be very loose and move around at the bottom, and the top is going to be nice and crispy, and the edges are going to be perfectly golden. Then we're going to find the appropriate plate to flip this, and then it's going to be our show-stopping finish.
Okay, pause before we do the final flip. Now, one of the most important principles in cooking is confidence. And I know this sounds a bit weird, like why would confidence be an important part of cooking? But trust me, it is. Quite often you'll find that if you hesitate in cooking, it will lead to a mistake. Whether you're cutting something, whether you're trying to flip something, take something out of the oven, anything like that. Especially when it comes to things with pastry, things that are fragile, that can break easily when it comes to layering cakes. If you hesitate, something will fail. So even if you get it wrong, you're better off being confident with your mistake than to just sort of hesitate halfway through it. What's the point? You might as well just go for it. Just do it with your chest, you know what I mean?
Okay, so after the random TED talk, let's have a look how this goes. 3, 2, 1, and flip. There we go. Nice and confident, and you've got your perfect kunafah. So once we've centered the mold a little bit, I'm just gonna lift it off very carefully, and there you go. Well, apart from the fact that I almost messed it up there, it's fine. Anyway, as you can see, we've got a perfectly crisp kunafah, and I'm just going to drizzle the syrup over it, making sure it's nice and even. Don't pour it on too quickly. You can even use a spoon if it helps making it more even. You don't want it to absorb too much, so just pour it over nice and evenly so that it becomes nice and sweet. And then we're going to top it off with some pistachios, and then of course have a nice ASMR knife cutting through it. And then we're going to have that amazing cheese stretch that should come with the kunafah. Wow, just look at that. And even if you put this in the fridge overnight, it's perfectly fine just to use the next day. Just make sure you reheat it. It should be served hot and with plenty of syrup. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, follow me on my socials at sliced_YT. And if you do attempt to make this at home, please send in your pictures to @sliced_YT on Instagram and Twitter.